I think I was born to be a Benny. I'm from Cold Spring, which was a very Benedictine parish. I had grade school and high school with the Bennie sisters. And I think really, I don't know if I would even gone to college if I hadn't planned to join the convent. Because in those days, not that many girls, some didn't even go to high school, but I know I chose the College of St. Benedict because that's where I was going to go to school and join the convent. But interesting, when I asked the pastor for a recommendation to the convent, he just said, "You don't belong there." He said, "You should be a missionary." He said, "You're only going there because that's the only school you know, the only sisters you know," which was pretty true, but I still went anyway, and I'm still there 70 years later. So I think it was the right choice. Bennie means the world to me. It means being a part of a major inheritance. When I think of, the wonderful people who started the whole Benedictine order, the sisters who came from Eichstätt and dared to cross over to the wilderness of Minnesota, which was just at that time just finishing with the grasshopper plague. So it was really a bad period of time for anybody to try to, come to Minnesota. But our women did. They braved. When I read the history, I never get tired of reading the history. And I just am so absolutely proud of our sisters and proud of, the fact that we in 1913 had a women's college when we didn't even have a right to vote at that time. There's so many things about it that makes me so proud. And another thing is knowing the alums that we have. And I know many of them, and being a part of St. Ben's for many, many years, and the college itself for 35 years. I just am so proud to be part of that group of women who has made such a difference and continues. There's no word except just being very proud and so grateful. As a student, you'll really enjoy this because, when I joined when I came to St. Ben's, I also joined the convent. And the first night when my family brought me there, and just one little incident about leaving, I only had one little brother who was 5 years old, Bob, and he just pleaded with me not to go. Every time I think of it, I still get, just a lump in my throat. Don't go. And my name was Isabel at that time, so it was Izzy. Don't go, Izzy, don't go. And the little 5-year-old, I don't think he understood I was not going to be coming home again. Maybe for a vacation, but not for that. But anyway, I came to St. Ben's. Sister Mary Anthony was our apostle and director. And she welcomed everybody that night, my family. But anyway, she became sick, which it seems bad in one way, but for me, it was a good thing because I didn't get any of the rules and regulations. And so immediately knowing the height that I am, an outgoing person, of course, I got to be with the students, with the, not the sister, but the other students, and became a good friend immediately. And sometime later on, somebody said, you're not supposed to be visiting or not being with the students. I said, you're crazy or something like that. I said, there's no way that I'm going to tell them I can't talk to them. And by that time, Mary Jane Pavolny, Rosemary Drummond, and many others, we were very good friends. Rosemary and I were in the orchestra together, and Mary Jane from beginning one, we were friends. And then I said, I was only going to be there that 1 year because I was going hopefully to the novitiate. They said, but you're part of our class, which is really neat. I think I graduated, because we went summer school by summer school. And I think I graduated really in 1967, 68. But I always claim 53, that class is my class. And it's really hard to decide because community obviously would be part. But for me, as I look at it, and I'm interviewed so often by students who are in some classes where they have to talk about Benedictine values. And they always they say, what's your favorite value and what's your most challenging one? And for me, it's listening. And I think I chose listening for several reasons. Number one, I love when people really listen to me. And there's such a difference between really listening and wanting to hear and not immediately saying, oh yeah, I know exactly how that is. But they weren't hearing what I was saying. And I try to be careful about that. But another thing I learned, about that is when students, because I was a residence director for 17 years and lived in the residence hall until this past year for 34 years. And many times they, have a security report, they're either at St. John's or they were doing whatever it was like that. And at first, after I got the second one, I kind of, I said, well, this is a set. But I remember, I don't know exactly what, but I thought, I'm not really listening to this student. And I remember the change, and I just said, I have the security report, or I have, from whatever it was like that, but I really want to know what really happened. You tell me what happened. And the defenses, I can just, see from that being, just like that, and I really, really listened. And I think I had experiences like that in my own life where somebody said, I said, no, I didn't even say, that's not really what happened. And I wanted them, and you could see the difference. And if they were guilty, they knew, but they told me more than but I was that thing, tell me what happened, or help me understand. And that type of listening, I could see the effect on the students and ordinary other people also. But so those two, listening, the two aspects of it, wanting to be listened to, but also wanting to really listen to somebody else. Again, I think it's very much like, when I think of being a Benny, I just want them, and I learned this from Sister Margreta. I was in Margreta Hall, and Sister Margreta Nathy, she just loved St. Ben's to the core. And when she would talk to the students, she was so passionate about, the opportunity you have, to be part of what I was saying too, part of this great group of women. And many times when I go to the cemetery, I love to go to, especially the older women and the others, and just thank them. Thank them for the sacrifices that they made and their wisdom. The things they chose to do way beyond what ordinary women would do, and encourage, and I think of like Mary Hinton too, really helping our students believe that they can do anything. And different ones have commented, and I've seen some of the notes they've written to her, because I had, when she became the Benedictine Reap Award winner, I was one of the persons, so I saw all these letters of which they were sharing, how when they came and that they didn't really have a lot of confidence in themselves, but the way she spoke about St. Ben's and about their abilities is just so great. But finally, some Bennies don't know the story of Benedictine Reap. When she came, she was just a 26-year-old woman leading, these 3 women that came and more joined along the way. But she was only here 10 years. She died after 10 years. And those years were hard. There were so many things that were so difficult. And one night, and I love this story, and I want the Bennies and the alums to remember that, she dreamt, that she saw this flowering tree. And when she awoke, she just had the conviction that this was a sign from God, in spite of, looking at this moment like this was going to be a complete failure, who knows, that tree would blossom and grow. And I see you Bennies, you alums, part of these blossoms that continue to bloom and grow. And I used to be, when we had the orientation, I'd always be invited to give part of the early history. And I would be sure to tell the incoming students that. And years later, I got this phone call, and she said, I'm one of the alums, I don't know, in the cities. And she said, I just saw Benedict Reap's tree. I said, you what? And she said, well, remember when you told that story? She said, I just passed this beautiful white tree with these white blossoms, and I thought of Benedict Reap's, the story. And so that's the thing what I would love to leave with you, that even when things are so hard, as they were so hard for Benedict Reap, that somehow underneath it all, or down below, there is that tree growing, that you yourself are going to grow forth and have buds and blossoms, that whether that's your children, grandchildren, whoever it is like that. But remember that wonderful story and treasure that.